time the car is already set to go in the corner is better than the flat straightaway and then having to dive up into a corner. You don't have to upset the car to get down in the corner here.
Trouble turn
boy,
3.
Oh boy.
One car slams the wall, and it's Alan Kulwicki ruining his second car of the weekend in a big way.
We are trying to keep pace with Alan Kulwicki's crew, Paul Andrews and the guys. They are not quitting. They are moving their toolbox, their hammers, pry bars, everything to the garage area where they hope to beat that car back into shape. We saw Alan Kulwicki get out of the ambulance. He needed a little help. He was stumbling just a little bit, not seriously hurt. A lot of that may have been more emotional than anything else. After all, this was his 5th race car to be badly banged up, if not totaled, here at Dover. Again, Alan Kulwicki not seriously injured, but certainly needs the rest and relaxation in there.
Not a very good day for us. Probably pretty much ruins our championship hopes for this year, but we'll be back.
Well, the crew is still working on the car. Do you feel up to getting back in it if they can repair it?
As hard as that thing is, they're probably just working on it to load it on the truck. I doubt if we'll be back today, but we'll be back another day. We're not going to give up.
Gentlemen, the 1992 NASCAR Winston Cup champion, Alan Kulwicki. Wow.
To this day, it remains one of the most impressive accomplishments in the history of motorsports. Alan Kulwicki overcomes a 278-point deficit in just 6 races over less than 2 months to win the Winston Cup Series championship. He does so in the most dramatic way possible, prevailing in a 6-man battle for the championship in the final race of the season. That race is in Atlanta, the corporate headquarters for Hooters, both the sponsor of his number 7 and, for the first time, the race itself. On the last of 328 laps, Kulwicki claims the final 5 bonus points of the season, the moment he takes the checkered flag in second place, the instant he's officially led just 1 more lap than the winner. This results in the closest championship yet decided, a margin of just 10 points. Kulwicki does all this as an owner-driver among super teams, fully funded teams that were ready to hire him. But by the time those offers came, he couldn't bear to leave the crew he had assembled, nor the car he built. A car that in that final race loses first gear, that nearly runs out of fuel. But it's still enough to beat race winner Bill Elliott, George's favorite son, who said yes to team owner Junior Johnson when Kulwicki said no, not once, but twice. Virtually unknown just a few years earlier, when he traveled south from his home in Wisconsin with little more than the clothes on his back, Kulwicki now stands proudly as stock car racing's newest champion, and his first with a college degree. A man ironically just as contemporary as he is a throwback to the sport's privateer past. He bridges the gap between the great Richard Petty and future star Jeff Gordon, who on this same day in Atlanta start their last Winston Cup race and their first respectively. After watching a montage of his journey played to Frank Sinatra's My Way, a song Kulwicki chose should this moment ever come to pass, it would have been easy for the driver to take all the credit, excusable even, but that just isn't him.
I want to thank my team. I don't think much has been said about them tonight. We acknowledged them briefly before, but a lot of things have been said about what I stand for, my determination and my work ethics and everything like that. But, you know, we're still one of the smaller teams on the NASCAR circuit, and these guys work really hard and they deserve a lot of the credit. Everything that I stand for, they stand for also, and I wouldn't be here without them. Some of my team members are seated down there and some are up in the balcony, and that's only appropriate because I truly do look up to you. Let's have a round of applause for them.
It would have been just as easy for Kulwicki to say mission accomplished and that there is no more work to do, but this too isn't the man from Wisconsin.
From the time I came into the sport, I tried to respect the people that were there, come in and be humble, and you know, I think in turn they respected me, and just because I won this championship, I think I'm going to try to continue to be a humble person. I hope that in the year to come I will be a good representative. I hope that when 1993 is over, that people at Winston, the people at NASCAR, and the competitors all look back and say, we were proud to have him represent us as our champion. Thank you.
Kulwicki is further pleased that politics didn't play a role in his title run. I always wondered if I got in a situation where I'd have a shot of winning the championship, would I really have a chance? Would they give me an equal shot, he says. And they did. Looking back on that, I don't think there was any politics in winning the championship, either for me or against me. I haven't really asked for any clout. I've just sort of gone about my business and tried to do the best job I can. He feels this way despite hardly ever speaking with NASCAR President Bill France Jr. until the '92 season. I think my relationship with France really started in the last year, he says. Prior to a year ago, I didn't have much of a relationship with him, but in the last year, we've talked a few times. And so, in the lobby of the Waldorf Astoria in New York City, Kulwicki hands out lapel pins to his inner circle. They're little gold rectangles depicting cartoon character Mighty Mouse on a pearl white background. He takes pictures with Miss Winston, who on this day happens to be a 22-year-old psychology major from UNC Charlotte named Brooke Seeley. He's also hired Jack Mack and the Heart Attacks, a band from Los Angeles, to play for his championship party. Determined to put on an even better party than the one Rusty Wallace held for his championship 3 years earlier, Kulwicki pays extra to have the band play until 3:30 in the morning. By then, a retired Richard Petty is leading a conga line. In 1989, Alan Kulwicki said that his degree in mechanical engineering prepared him to handle every facet of life as a professional race car driver. Personal and professional interaction is necessary for success in just about everything you do, especially in our sport, he said. I feel that my education has prepared me to deal with sponsors, the media, officials, and the general public in a professional manner. It has definitely been essential in the success of operating my own team. It's an asset I'm proud of. And yes, if I had it all to do over again, I'd still go after the degree. Kulwicki knows just as well as anyone the cost of pursuing a dream. Whatever it is you want to accomplish in life, ask yourself how bad you want it, he says. If you're willing to pay the price to get it, then pay it and do it. But now with the Winston Cup in hand comes another cost. A Ford driver's seminar informs Kulwicki he must keep giving the press something to talk about. The Polish victory lap, Mighty Mouse, and his iconic Underbird only do so much. People now want to know more about the man himself. This means more personal appearances by a driver long known less for his interactions with fans than his near-obsessive focus on his work. He knows he will have to make adjustments. I am and will be sacrificing time at the shop, he says. If I refuse to do this extra stuff, like travel and appearances, everyone would say I wasn't accessible, I wasn't cooperative, I wasn't a good champion. So I'm going to do the best I can up to a certain point. Then I'll have to say I've got to work on the car now. Kulwicki already has a public relations man on staff. Tom Roberts has been a good friend of his ever since he made the move south from Wisconsin. By February of '93, Kulwicki has also hired a business manager, Don Hawk, who he's known for 6 years. On January 23, 1993, the night before his hometown of Greenfield, Wisconsin declares it Alan Kulwicki Day, the driver is a special guest at a basketball game between the Milwaukee Bucks and Philadelphia 76ers. On February 22nd, he races media members at Celebration Station in Greensboro. He finishes no better than 4th in his 3 heats, then spins in the main event, won by cameraman Bryan for KFMY TV. Kulwicki is also nominated for Auto Racing's Performer of the Year award in the inaugural ESPYs, which he loses to Nigel Mansell. With each appearance, Kulwicki assures viewers that what they see is what they get. His underdog persona isn't a gimmick. "I am different, but I'm not trying to make a point of being different," he says. "I'm not saying I'm smarter, or I'm this or that. I'm not from the South, that's one thing. Maybe I'm a little more philosophical, a little more analytical, something like that. I'm probably a little more into clothes, music, style, decorating." Fans see this firsthand when he invites Benny Parsons to his home for an ESPN video called Champion of Dreams.
How about some food? Now, I walked up a whole flight of stairs and you haven't offered me one thing to eat. You have anything to eat in this house?
All right, let's go eat.
What do you got to eat?
I'll feed you. Come on.
Okay, I'm going to watch. I'm not a cook. I'm not a manufacturer. I'm a consumer.
Consumer, right.
You know, we all know that you were probably the hungriest, looking at all this food, you were the hungriest driver on the circuit last year. You wanted it so bad. Now you want it, you wish for it, your wishes come true. Has it made you more hungry for another title or less hungry?
Well, I mean, it sort of whets your appetite to come back. I mean, you enjoy all the things that go along with being the champion. But, you know, in the long run, you've got to work to not get complacent, not get soft and think, you know, you're going to come back next year and it's all just going to fall in place for you. It's going to happen again. You have to come back and work hard at it to make sure that it does happen again.
In the 92 to 93 offseason, Kulwicki takes just 3 Sundays off and continues to toil in his shop. There is plenty to do. NASCAR Technical Director Gary Nelson aims to reduce cost by standardizing the shape of each car. His goal is to eliminate the need for teams to need special cars to run on each type of track. In the February 7th edition of the Roanoke Times, Bob Zeller predicts the 1993 NASCAR Winston Cup season will see more winners, less domination, and closer racing. Don't be surprised, he writes, if there's another 6-way battle for the championship at the end of the year. But even Kulwicki is already questioning how much longer he can keep pace with the sport. "You make money, but you lose so much personal time that you can't even spend it," he says. Of particular concern to him is NASCAR's decision to extend the schedule from 29 to 30 races, adding the new venue in New Hampshire in July, while keeping the off-season so short. "I'm not there yet, but I can't see going 15 years at this rate. If you've already made more money than you could spend the rest of your life, then what's your incentive to go out and make more? You do it for the challenge, because you enjoy it, but after a while, if you never get to stop and enjoy it, then what good is it?" There is also the question of motivation. In February, Kulwicki admits that his trademark intensity has been tempered, but only so much. "People said I couldn't win the championship as an owner-driver," he says. "Now they're saying the championship will get the best of me. This is my new challenge, to come out and do this in spite of the fact that people are saying it'll get the best of me. I'm working extra hard to defy those odds. That's probably where some of my new motivation is going to come from." To center himself, Kulwicki continues to embrace his guiding philosophy, to become, not to acquire. He and his team are underdogs who have prevailed, providing inspiration even to those with no interest in racing. "A lot of people write me about that in other areas of their life," he says. "It might be a short track racer. It might be someone who says, 'You've been a real inspiration. When it gets tough for me, I think about what you've done, and it gives me inspiration,' and so on. I'll finish my education, get my degree, get a promotion in my job, or stick with my marriage. That makes you feel good, and I feel real comfortable with myself and who I am and what I am." His fellow competitors look up to him too, not simply the drivers who consider starting their own teams, but those looking to keep pace with the growing number of big money organizations. Butch Mock admires Kulwicki for winning the title on just $2,840,000, the low end of what most teams ran at the time. Heading into 1993, Mock has even less to work with for Dick Trickle. Also inspired is Jimmy Means, who even with sponsorship from Napa for the Busch Clash Daytona 500 and Pepsi 400, has just $300,000 and 3 employees getting the number 52 car to the track. "I don't have a setup like Rick Hendrick or Junior Johnson," said Kulwicki in 1989, "but that's not necessarily what I'm after. There are some aspects with those teams that I try to implement. We should not be viewed as a small independent team. I'm confident that we can be successful somewhere in between." An article by Steve Wade, published for programs printed early in the 1993 season, features the story behind Kulwicki's first Polish victory lap at Phoenix. It was a miracle he was even in contention that day. On lap 24, his crew couldn't change the right rear tire due to a rounded lug nut. Kulwicki had to run the tire another 20 laps before the crew managed to break it free with a 6-point hand socket. By then, the tire had nearly come apart. Only after this was Kulwicki able to work his way through traffic and challenge for victory. Kulwicki promises he will perform one more Polish victory lap in his career. "I'd like to do it once more, around the track backward at Daytona after winning the 500, he says in early 1993. "Then I would retire it." In the Great American Race, Kulwicki is far from a long shot. In 1989, he was leading with 4 laps to go when he ran out of fuel, handing the victory to Darrell Waltrip. In 1991, his U.S. Army machine was best of the unsponsored Operation Desert Support entries, finishing 8th. And in 92, a wreck in the 125 sent him to a backup car in the 41st starting spot. He drove that car to a 4th-place finish, placing him within 25 points of the championship he'd claim in November. But the 1993 opener doesn't go to plan. He catches a bad cold before his pre-qualifying physical and is put on antibiotics. This is not helped by his many media obligations, which he describes like a faucet that couldn't turn off. He finds himself so frustrated and distracted that he can neither work out with his trainer Dee Jetton nor focus on figuring out why his Ford is so slow compared to the Chevrolets. After issues in inspection prior to testing, his car ran a full mile-per-hour slower than the top speeds. Determined to block out all distractions, Kulwicki places stanchions with pennants around his garage stall, something completely unheard of at the time. NASCAR makes him take them down. A key loss to his team doesn't help. Midway through the 1989 season, Ron Vaccaro became Kulwicki's head engine builder. In the 87 races that followed, Kulwicki only failed to finish 15 times. 2 of those were in 1992, and only 1 of those was due to engine failure. But on December 23, 1992, Vaccaro leaves to join Precision Products Racing, whose Skoll Oldsmobiles for Rick Mast are now being converted into Ford Thunderbirds. Kulwicki promotes Danny Glad from chief mechanic to fill Vaccaro's spot. Taking Glad's place is Gail Powley, who had tuned the engines for both Buddy Baker at MC Anderson's team and more recently Lake Speed's owner-driver operation in 1989. Glad and Powley will work in a new engine shop that is being finished next to Kulwicki's Harrisburg garage. The first test comes in the Busch Clash, for which Kulwicki qualifies thanks to his series-leading 6 poles during his championship season. He draws the 5th starting spot in the 15-car field, but after both 10-lap segments finds himself a distant 10th at the finish. In qualifying for the 500, he ranks just 24th of 49 qualifiers with a speed of 187.445 miles per hour. Rick Mast and his Ron Vaccaro engine ranks 7th. But the Hooters Ford showed speed in the draft. At the end of the second Twin 125 on Thursday, he comes home 5th, securing 10th on the grid for the Great American Race. On the Friday before the 500, Kulwicki makes his first ever start in the International Race of Champions, another benefit of his championship win. He this time draws the 2nd spot alongside pole sitter Juan Manuel Fangio II, representing IMSA. Once again, Kulwicki is not among the race's 5 different leaders and comes home in 8th. Just after crossing the line, he and Fangio tangle, sending Kulwicki spinning into the infield grass. In the 500, Kulwicki shows some speed early, climbing as high as 2nd place.
Bobbing, weaving, now pulling away. Was that a cushion of air we saw right there?
That's exactly what it was. There was a little bit of a vacuum that he hit. He first of all hit a little bit of a wall of air. And look there, he has the momentum now down on the inside. It's sort of like driving on the freeway and you come up behind or a big truck. You pass it and you feel that blast of air off of it. Well, that's exactly what they're doing here at 190 miles an hour.
But as the race wears on, he drops a cylinder, then another, and loses 2 laps on pit road. He'll lose a 3rd lap by the checkered flag, taking home a disappointing 26th.
Well, Mike, you can be sure that when the introduction of this driver of the number 7 car, is introduced, there will be a resounding applause from the fans for the reigning Winston Cup champion. That's because Alan Kulwicki represents a real hard work story, and Alan Kulwicki is here to show you just why.
After his poor finish in Daytona, the series returns to Rockingham, site of Kulwicki's 2nd career win in the fall of 1990. This time he qualifies 20th and gradually works his way to the front. He takes the lead on lap 339 and holds it for 2 laps before eventual winner Rusty Wallace makes his way by. Around this time, Kulwicki's window net comes loose and he struggles to drive one-handed while trying to keep it in place. It dangled there for a lap or 2, and I started messing with it, he says after the race. I was driving with one hand and trying to get the net back up with the other. I put the net up with one hand and was driving with one hand as we went into turn 1. I was side by side with Hut Strickland. I got loose, and then 6 cars were working me over. I just burned off that set of tires and got behind. Kulwicki's crew reattaches the net on their next stop, and he again climbs to 6th on the final restart with 52 to go. When Harry Gant drops out with a broken oil pump, he takes over 4th and sets after the leaders Wallace, Dale Earnhardt, and Ernie Irvan. He can't catch them, and instead holds off Mark Martin in the final laps to defend the 4th place finish. We picked up several spots, says Kulwicki. We were gaining on him at the end, but we were just behind all day. We had a real good run. With his first strong run of the season, Kulwicki once again focuses on improving each aspect of his team's performance. In his hauler at Richmond, he pores over computer-generated charts of his shock absorber performance. In Happy Hour, he and his crew perform a live 4-tire stop, something rarely done during practice at the time. Things are sort of semi-normal right now, he says, happy that the media buzz over his championship has calmed down. Now I'm settled down a little bit. I'm still plenty busy, but I'm in a good frame of mind. The team's doing good. I'm just looking forward to racing every weekend. Once again, Kulwicki is rewarded with a solid finish. He comes home 3rd behind Davey Allison and Rusty Wallace. It's Allison's first win of the season, and as it will turn out, the last of his career. We were really good and had a good run, says Kulwicki. We were a little tight there for a while, but we were able to get the car better. I faded a little on the first set of tires, but we came in pretty good there later. You know, we were good, but just not quite good enough to win. It was about like last week. We were about the 3rd best car out there. The run lifts Kulwicki to 6th in the points, just 75 markers behind point leader and Daytona 500 winner Dale Jarrett. But Alan still isn't about to get ahead of himself. Right now, I feel pretty good, he says. I'm pretty confident. I think I have every bit as much inner confidence as some guys who have been running their mouths about the championship. It's way, way, way too early in the year to be talking about something like that. It is now time to return to Atlanta, site of Kulwicki's dramatic championship showdown just 4 months earlier. He brings the same car from that race, upgraded with a new Ford Thunderbird body approved for the '93 season, and uses the same setup. But this time the car proves a handful. After struggling in practice, he qualifies just 29th on the grid. It is his worst starting spot since the previous May at Dover, where he rolled off 37th. Kulwicki and his crew gather back at the hotel at night to discuss what changes they need to make and prepare to return to the speedway early in the morning. They awake to find that they are practically snowed in as a massive blizzard blew through overnight. Seeing an opportunity, the group still heads to the track and find they were just about the only people there. With the garage all to themselves, they turn Kulwicki's car sideways in the center of the garage, park their van in front of the stall to block the wind, and point several space heaters at the car. It soon gets so cold that Kulwicki puts on his helmet to try and stay warm. By 4 p.m., when the race is postponed and the car is impounded, the crew has completed their checklist. Number 1, adjusting all front-end steering components. Number 2, swapping the qualifying transmission for the one used on race day. Number 3, changing the exhaust and header pipes. Number 4, reevaluating the shock, spring, and chassis combination. And number 5, rather than changing engines, adjusting the valves and resetting the timing of their qualifying engine. After filling their other engine with antifreeze, the group leaves the track, ready for final practice the following Friday, then the race on Saturday. Despite all their preparations, Kulwicki's car has an electrical short on race day. According to Don Hawk, the crew removes the battery and spends 45 minutes tracing all the wires. They managed to diagnose the issue in time to take the green flag, but they're still not up to speed. In the early stages, Kulwicki loses a lap to Mark Martin while running 15th. He gets his lap back and passes Dale Earnhardt clean, but several laps later the number 3 car catches him and bangs doors down the straightaway. Then, while racing Jeff Bodine on lap 134, comes trouble.
Jumps in the gas. Whoa. There he goes, coming around.
Oh, baby. We don't have to analyze that one. That was pretty obvious.
Oh, now watch for oncoming traffic. Oh, that's what I was worried about. There comes some cars.
Dick Trickle. And everybody else will slow down and get through.
To a stop.
Kulwicki is still running. The back end of his car is badly caved in, but it is still moving.
Wally Dallenbach gets in the back of Dick Trickle, sending Trickle spinning into the back of the stopped Kulwicki. Both drivers go to the infield care center. While Kulwicki has a sore back, Trickle has a strained left foot, plus some contusions and abrasions.
A very disheartened Alan Kulwicki is walking away from his car. He climbed out under his own power. Alan, tough break out there. What exactly happened?
I'm not really sure. Earnhardt and I rubbed on the front straightaway. I don't know if I cut a tire down or what. It just, I don't know. The thing just got loose and got away from me. I don't know.
Well, you got a really good break there. You made a great move to get that lap back and then had something like this to happen, but you're okay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The car's pretty bad, unfortunately. I hope nobody got hurt there. Somebody ran in the back of me awful hard, and I just hope everybody's okay.
Well, we appreciate you taking time. Better luck next time.
Kulwicki stays at the track and in the final stages wanders down to the Wood Brothers pit. The Woods driver, Morgan Shepherd, is looking to pick up his 3rd win in Atlanta on fuel mileage. Kulwicki will insist that he didn't help the team, that he only offered moral support, but did ask if they were sure Shepherd had enough fuel to make it to the end. Such a question had crossed Kulwicki's mind at that same track that fateful November. "I don't think he wanted to see us do anything stupid," says Len Wood. Eddie Wood adds, "I don't really remember much about what was said, but I appreciated him being there. I think he's one of the coolest guys out here." Shepherd does pull off the win, the last of his Winston Cup career. Kulwicki visits the team in victory lane, but declines to have his picture taken. For all the team's hard work, the crash in Atlanta had been a costly one, the 36th place finish dropping Kulwicki from 6th to 14th in the point standings. He looks to bounce back in Darlington, where he's running double duty with both Winston Cup and the second round of IROC. A field inversion from the Daytona race places Kulwicki 4th on the grid for the first IROC race at Darlington. Al Unser takes the lead from the pole, but after 2 laps, Kulwicki slips past in turn 3 to take the lead. He then builds an impressive 3-second lead before Jack Baldwin's spin draws the first caution flag. Kulwicki defends the lead when the second caution comes out 2 laps later for Jeff Brabham's crash. It's on this restart that Davey Allison, then Dale Earnhardt speed past into the first 2 spots. Kulwicki's car sputters, then pulls behind the wall, out with engine trouble in 11th place. "I was having fun out there," he says in the garage. "I thought I had a chance to win, but I had an engine problem. It was a broken rocker or something. There just wasn't anything you could do about it." He'll have to wait until May for the series' 3rd round in Talladega. The IROC race perfectly captures Kulwicki's hot and cold performances at Darlington. The track saw his only career last-place finish during the 1987 Southern 500, which was his first of 9 starts where he qualified inside the top 10. His best finish came in the spring race of '88 when he followed Lake Speed to his only Cup Series win. On this day, Kulwicki qualifies 14th in what is the final Cup points-paying start for James Hilton and the most recent for Norm Benning. Once again, Kulwicki returns to his form from Rockingham and Richmond, leading laps 102 and 103, the 2,685th and 2,686th of his 207 career starts. My car went from one extreme to another, he says. I started out pushing like crazy. I got it adjusted pretty good, and then about halfway through it got so loose I couldn't hardly drive it. I don't know if the track changed or if the sun came out and made that much difference. Kulwicki never contends for the lead and falls a lap down, but in the closing stages hounds the rear bumper of Kyle Petty, who he also battled during the early laps at Richmond. This is the battle for sixth, and having just won the closest Winston Cup championship battle, Kulwicki is determined to score those 4 extra points.
There wasn't 3 laps to go. A bunch of these cars be hitting pit road right now. Here's Kulwicki once again going to try it on the outside. He's got a pretty good run on Kyle.
Nope, don't think so.
That's 4 points. Oh, baby.
It was a lot. It wasn't as close.
Excuse me.
Here comes Alan Kulwicki and Petty, who really got down on the apron that lap, battling for position, but Kulwicki got it. That's 6th and 7th.
Kulwicki gets the spot. It was a matter of principle, he says. We were both out of tires, slipping and sliding around out there. That's what we're paid to do. We did the best we could. We were about a 5th place car, and we ended up 6th. It was a decent run. It gets us back on track after last week at Atlanta. This gets us back into the points thing, and now we can make more steps from here. With the finish, Kulwicki climbs to 9th in points, 179 behind winner Dale Earnhardt, who scores his first win of the season and first since Andy Petrie took over for Kirk Shelmerdine as crew chief. You've got to be smart and run the best you can with what you've got, says Kulwicki. Earnhardt loves this track and won this race, and I congratulate him. There will be another day when we'll be better. As March turns to April, it's been just over 4 months since Kulwicki won the 1992 NASCAR Winston Cup Series championship, yet he's hardly touched his over $1 million in winnings. He hasn't hired any extra crew, fearful that he'd upset the chemistry of his current group. He hasn't had time to invest it. One thing he considers is buying a private plane, allowing he and his crew to travel more easily. But it turns out Hooters has a couple planes, he says, and they've painted one of them orange and white, the team colors. We're going to use that to fly the team around. Kulwicki makes a lease agreement with Hooters CEO Bob Brooks for the plane, and the plane's tail number is changed from November 300 Echo Foxtrot, the EF representing Eastern Foods, Hooters' parent company, to November 500 Alpha Kilo, representing the driver's initials. The decision made, Kulwicki's money stays in the bank. The Winston Cup Series now heads to Bristol, where Kulwicki is featured both on and in the event program as defending winner of the Food City 500.